This is Dave, and I'm here with Ethan, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 120-inch.
On this week's episode, it's part one of our interview with actor Samm Levine, known for everything from Freaks and Geeks to Inglourious Basterds to the Kevin Pollak Chat Show.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Welcome to episode 120-inch, Ethan. Now that is an impressive 10 feet.
Wow, how awesome. Happy 10 feet, Dave. Wow, 10 feet. That's like as long as a football field, isn't it?
Not an American football field, eh?
Well, yeah, I meant a Canadian football field. Eh?
Ah, yes, eh? You are correct then, eh?
How much fun was it to talk to the twine ball mayor himself, Josh Johnson, last week?
That was really pretty stinking majestic. I learned so much about Darwin and Francis A. Johnson and the twine ball. I totally cannot wait until we take our inevitable road trip out to Darwin, Minnesota.
Oh man, me too. That is going to be so much fun. I've already started stocking up on Spider-Man comics and Diet Chocolate Soda. And Dave, before you ask, I already have plenty of pickled wieners.
Very good. I'm glad that you stocked up on those early. You know there's always a high demand for pickled wieners.
Of course.
Well, I really hope that Mayor Johnson and everyone else who attended the Twine Ball celebration last week had an incredibly fun time.
Oh, well, I'm sure they did. I mean, who doesn't love sand volleyball, beanbag tournaments, and of course fun, but unsanctioned, kids pedal tractor pulls? Oh, they must have had a blast.
You know, my favorite part from last week's episode was when Mayor Johnson said that there were no hard feelings against any other big twine balls, and then he proceeded to badmouth the Ripley's one.
Yes, and of course, while he said there were no issues with the neighboring town of Dassel, Minnesota, we all know what's really going on.
Well, we got a lot to get to on our big 10-foot episode this week, so let's check out what's going on in This Week in Weird Al related news. First up, we want to wish our good friend John Bermuda Schwartz a very happy birthday.
That's right. Today, Wednesday, August 18th, is John Bermuda Schwartz's actual birthday. So from all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, we want to wish a very happy, pretty stinking majestic birthday to our friend Bermuda.
Yes, indeed. Happy birthday, Bermuda. Ethan, what did you get Bermuda for his birthday?
Well, actually, I didn't get him anything.
You didn't?
Well, remember, we went in on a group gift instead, Dave.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, we chipped in and we got Bermuda a pretty stinking majestic birthday gift.
That's right. In honor of Bermuda's birthday, this Friday, August 20th, we will drop the first 2 episodes of our Black and White and Weird All Over bonus episode series for the cheapskates, for the general public.
This is the book series where we sit down with author John Bermuda Schwartz and we go picture by picture through his book Black and White and Weird All Over, the Lost Photographs of Weird Al Yankovic, 1983 through 1986. And the first 2 episodes that are dropping this Friday, they cover the overview and the introduction as well as Chapter 1 Ricky video shoot.
These episodes were designed to be fully immersive, so we highly recommend that you have your books open and you follow along with us as you listen to each episode for the best experience possible.
Yeah, maybe put on a pot of tea, grab your headphones, and sit back in your favorite chair while you listen.
A pot of tea? Really?
What? I like tea.
Well, anyway, I'm really excited for Friday. I cannot wait for everyone to hear these episodes. You know, Dave, we learned so much talking to Bermuda. And of course, while we go into a lot of detail about every photo and really every inch and centimeter in the book, we also are just talking to Bermuda for a long time about a lot of other details about his life and Weird Al's career. And we cover things that most interviews don't really dive as deep into as we do. So I think even the most diehard Weird Al fan will pick up a few things they didn't even know before.
Okay, Ethan, you got me even more excited now about these bonus episodes. How about just a little sneak peek, a random clip maybe?
Oh, well, sure, we can do that. We'll have Frank play just a completely random clip from a completely random episode. You know, it's not like we specifically had Frank pull out this specific clip just to specifically play right on this specific episode. It's completely random.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Let's take a listen.
And to comment on, you know, having no captions, and, you know, we do lose a couple names and that kind of thing, but I think that's what's really good about what we're doing right now is the folks that you do know and we do have stories about, they get to be told. So just one more thank you, Bermuda, for sitting down with us. This is a great experience.
Oh, well you are welcome. I'm glad I have a chance to, I mean, you know, it may surprise the listeners out there. I don't sit at home thumbing through the book. I mean, this is a chance for me to look at the book in a way that I really haven't done. I mean, because I was sort of part of the process of seeing all these photos in the first place, and once the book came out, it's like, yeah, you know, now it's all culminated, and I got a book. You know, that's great. And I really didn't sit down and thumb through it, you know, as if I was seeing it for the first time, because it wasn't. So I'm doing it now, you know, like I'm seeing it for the first time, and again, and it's very cool. And I'm seeing the things in here that you guys are seeing now that I didn't see before, and you're pointing things out, and it's like, just, I never saw that, you know, I never realized that, or I never, you know, the fire extinguisher sign without the fire extinguisher. Now we know where the fire extinguisher went. I never noticed that.
Wow, that completely random clip from a completely random episode was pretty stinking majestic.
I can't agree with you more, Dave. Now, we were literally talking to Bermuda for hours and hours recording these bonus episodes. And Dave, we really think that the insights about the book and the tangents about Weird Al and his career are really some of the best content we've released. So we just cannot wait for you to hear it all.
Ethan, did you know that we always post all bonus episodes early on our Patreon page at patreon.com/2000inch?
Wow, you don't say!
So that means that our Patreon family has actually had these bonus episodes for a little while now.
Well, since the cheapskates, the general public are getting a treat on Friday, what do you say we give our Patreon family a little something extra too, Dave?
That's a great idea. So also on Friday, Black and White and Weird All Over bonus episode 6 centimeter, which is part 1 of chapter 4, Eat It video shoot, will post over on our Patreon page as well.
That is such exciting news. Now, this whole completely natural and in no way contrived conversation has been great, don't get me wrong, but let me make sure I have this straight. On Friday, bonus episode 1 centimeter and bonus episode 2 centimeter of the Black and White and Weird All Over series are going to be posted through all our usual podcast channels. And also, bonus episode 6 centimeter will be posted for our Patreon family over on patreon.com/2000inch, also on Friday.
Yep, you got it. It's a Black and White and Weird All Over Bermuda Birthday Friday.
Woohoo!
On Monday, August 16th, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce honored Don McLean with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in the category of recording.
Don McLean is the man behind the iconic hit song American Pie, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year.
And of course, Weird Al parodied the song in The Saga Begins, but that's not all. Weird Al was the guest speaker at Don's ceremony.
Now, Al started off reading from a prepared bio, which, based on how he read it, I think he was forced to do that. But then afterwards, he spoke for a few minutes and told a story about his relationship with Don, American Pie, and getting permission for The Saga Begins, which was really awesome.
And this is actually the third time in 3 years that Weird Al has spoken at a star ceremony. The first, of course, being his own way back in August 2018, and the second being for Lin-Manuel Miranda a few months later.
There are so many reasons why it was appropriate for Al to speak at this particular ceremony, not only because of his connection to Don, but also because Don actually got the 2,700th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, this significant number did not go unnoticed by Al, who said he was jealous.
Now, overall, this ceremony was a little disorganized. I mean, for example, they called up Don too early and they made him uncomfortably stand in the background for a really long time as other people finished up their speeches. And when Don finally got to speak, he said that Al had to change his schedule to be there. So we're thinking that this was most likely a last-minute thing.
And you wouldn't believe it. When they were introducing Al to the stage, they said his last name wrong.
Oh, boy. He's a Walk of Famer. Come on, you can get it right. It's spelled correctly on the star. We made sure of that.
And literally just sounded out. There's nothing fancy going on.
Anyway, if you missed the ceremony and you want to check it out, you can do so over at walkoffame.com.
This coming weekend, Friday, August 20th through Sunday, August 22nd, is Funfest 2021, featuring guest of honor, Dr. Demento.
Now, in addition to the great doctor, longtime Dementite Sulu will be there, as well as the guys from the Fump, tons of Demented musicians, and a ton of Demented fans.
We are very proud to be one of the sponsors of the festival, and we are so jealous of our friends and listeners who will be attending. So please, don't leave us out. Let us know how it was.
And if you are in the Chicagoland area or can be there by Friday, it is not too late to register. So be quick and register over at fumpfest.com. Tell them Dave and Ethan sent you.
Weird Al was once again referenced on the game show Jeopardy! This time on the August 13th episode with guest host Joe Buck.
Oh, did a contestant choose potpourri for 100?
Not quite. They chose the category of Lost for 1,200, and the clue was Art Fleming and Don Pardo were in the video for this Weird Al parody song.
Oh, I know this one. What's I Lost on Jeopardy?
You got that correct! You win a year's supply of Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat!
If you want to check out the full clip, Weird Al posted over on his social media.
But that's not all! Weird Al was also referenced on yet another game show this week, NBC's Capital One College Bowl.
This time the category was Mom and Dad's Music, questions about music from the 1980s.
All right, the question was, since he released Eat It, what parody singer had a Billboard hit in each decade from the 80s to the 2010s?
Ooh, I know this one. What is I Lost on Jeopardy?
Ooh, sorry, Dave. You did not get that question right. The correct answer was Weird Al Yankovic.
Well, you know, I think I was thrown off by the category. Mom and Dad's Music? Come on, seriously?
Now, after they gave the answer, the host, Peyton Manning, he said, maybe jokingly, that Weird Al is one of Coop's favorite artists, speaking about his brother, Cooper Manning, who he hosts the show with.
And that's not all. Weird Al appeared this past week on Playtime with Hillis, a twice-weekly Zoom screening series of rare cinema.
So Al was on, and he was paired with a screening of Ruthless People.
Ethan, have you ever seen Ruthless People, for which the song of the same name was written and then parodied by Al?
I have not seen Ruthless People. Have you, Dave?
I have not seen it either.
Well, we should have went to this event.
At least one person on Twitter attended because they mentioned playing Quiplash with Al and host Aaron Hillis. So that event was either extra super cool or there was some secret after party. How much fun.
Well, it must have been quite a busy week for Weird Al and fans of Weird Al, because Al also has popped up on the podcast Endless Honeymoon, hosted by Moshe Kasher and Natasha Leggero.
He was on for about 20 minutes, and this was their 121st episode. Now, wait a minute. Isn't this our 120th episode?
Ooh, we're catching up. We're gaining on him, Dave. I think it's so cool that Al showed up on Moshe and Natasha's podcast. Dave, do you know who Moshe and Natasha are?
Ethan, I think you already know the answer to that question.
All right, Dave. Well, lastly, there's some exciting news for episode 71-inch guest Justin A. Martell and his Tiny Tim biography, Eternal Troubadour, The Improbable Life of Tiny Tim.
Yeah, recently the audio version of his book was released on Audible, and the book is narrated by none other than comedian Tim Heidecker, known for his work on Adult Swim.
And of course, as part of the Tim and Eric duo, who have certainly worked with Weird Al their fair share. So that is so exciting, and what a great way to experience that book. Hey Dave, did you ever want to cover yourself in chewed up bubblegum and roll around in the dirt?
No, not really.
Did you ever get the sensation that you wanted to ghost direct a shot-for-shot remake of a 1930s musical number by Busby Berkeley in an Olympic-sized swimming pool full of lychee bubble tea?
Can't say that's crossed my mind.
Well, what about weaving a cape of cruciferous vegetables and parasailing off the Gateway Arch in St. Louis during the halftime of the Settlers of Catan World Championships?
Actually, that one's a yes, but I already did it last Thursday.
If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you'll love Waiting for Lunch Radio. Hosts Joe and Stashu serve up a free-form musical mixtape salad that will have you saying, "Boy, I certainly find it enjoyable to listen to this program."
Hear Waiting for Lunch Radio on Mixcloud and find it at waitingforlunch.com.
Oh, I have some exciting news.
Oh boy, what?
Our past guest, friend, listener, Patreon supporter, and sponsor, David Grant, has launched his very own TikTok.
Holy crap! That's amazing!
I know, right?
So, what exactly is a TikTok?
Oh, well, I thought you would know. I assume it's some sort of clock?
Wow, that's Sebastian Shepard. He's getting into the old clock game.
Well, let me tell you, if you also have a clock account, you can follow him at Seb, SEB_Shep, SHEP.
So I assume this TikTok is like movie phone. You know, you just call and it tells you the time?
Dave, we don't call stuff anymore. That's called MySpacing now.
Oh, I always forget.
So follow at SEB_SHEP on TikTok and visit wolfinwool.com.
Well, I can tell by the old TikTok on MySpace that it is time for this week's interview.
Dave and I are absolutely thrilled to welcome a celebrity superfan onto the podcast. You will know him from so many things, such as Freaks and Geeks, Inglourious Basterds, Wet Hot American Summer, Not Another Teen Movie. The list goes on and on. We are very thrilled to welcome Samm Levine. How's it going, Sam?
Oh, it's wonderful. Thank you for that lovely intro. I really don't like the word celebrity. At least whenever it gets used to describe, me. Like, I always feel like I am the farthest thing from a celebrity. And people, well, then what's a celebrity? I'm like, Paris Hilton is a celebrity. Okay? Kim Kardashian is a celebrity. They are famous for the act of being famous. I am an actor. An actor. Yeah, I act. I act for a living. I'm not a celebrity.
All right, well, I'll consider you a celebrity just because you're in so many of my favorite things that I watch, and I think that counts as celebrity.
Okay, well, all right. If we're going by your standards,
Yeah.
then okay, Ethan. Thank you.
And anybody who is a big Weird Al fan, in my book, is also a celebrity.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So you must know a lot of celebrities.
Yes.
I sure do. Every one of our listeners is a celebrity by my definition.
Well, we all have our own definitions of celebrity, it sounds like.
I'm interested to know, Sam, just how you got into Weird Al. When was your first exposure to Weird Al?
That's a fine question, and I would venture to guess it started in the late 1980s, probably with the film UHF.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
I feel like I only peripherally knew that Al was, a musician before I saw UHF. And I was the perfect age. I think I was 7 when I first saw UHF in '89, and so that was it. You know, I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is the greatest film I've ever seen. All movies in the future of my life will be measured against this film, and you know, and then I had an older brother, and I had more evolved friends at school, and when I mentioned UHF, I think it was my friend Danny who said, "Oh, you know, I've got his, I got one of his albums. We can listen to it later if you want to come over," and so I had a play date, I think, at my friend Danny's house, and I want to say that's when I heard Ricky.
Oh, cool!
The first time. That may have been the very first Al song I heard after having been introduced to him in UHF.
Wow. So it sounds like you saw it in theaters. Is that accurate?
That is almost certainly the way I saw it, yeah. I vividly remember seeing it with my brother and laughing our heads off.
Okay, now, as an actor, if you could be in UHF, go back in time, be your current self in UHF, who would you want to play?
I mean, it's hard not to want to be, at the very least, David Bowie's character.
Yeah.
Because he's there for so much of the cool stuff. Because I certainly can't be George.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? You got to let Al be George. And I'm not mean enough to be... is his name Kevin McCarthy, the actor?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yep, Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, I'm not mean enough to be Kevin McCarthy. You know, and yeah, there's no other role that I feel like an actor like me could do without mucking it up. You know, but I've David Bowie, the great David Bowie, he was on an episode of Freaks and Geeks. So of course, when I met him there, the first thing I wanted to talk about was, "Hey man, let's talk about UHF." And you know, he was very affable about it. You know, said there was a ton of laughs, and that's how I would want to be in the movie. Is I wouldn't want to change anything.
Right.
I'd want to be able to just sort of do my own thing.
Yeah.
Not stick out.
Now, you mentioned Freaks and Geeks. I mean, it's a classic show. I don't know if anyone watched it when it was actually on, but it has become this incredible thing that I really hope that there's plans or eventually a way to bring it back in some capacity. But I feel like being on Freaks and Geeks, it almost must have been a requirement to be a Weird Al fan. Were there other people on the set that you were talking about Weird Al with?
That's a good question, and I don't think so. I mean, the truth of the matter is, everyone else on that show is actually very cool in real life. You know, they were all just acting. I was really just sort of playing a very close version of myself on that show, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I know John Daly is an Al fan. I don't know if Martin Starr was. I mean, I'm sure, you know, there's no doubt everyone there is familiar with Al, has heard some of his stuff, but I don't know that Martin and I ever, like, talked about Al the way I probably did with John.
Right.
And Lord knows Paul Feig and Judd Apatow are fans of Al's.
Right.
So I'm sure I discussed it with the two of them. But yeah, I remember, like I said, when David Bowie was on set, that was the first time a celebrity was on the show, as far as I'm concerned. Someone from UHF is here.
Oh, you must have freaked out when you heard that he was coming on. And you're probably the only person who freaked out that he was coming on.
I really did. Like, the way you, on a TV series, most of the time, the way you find out who is going to be on the next episode as a guest star is by reading the script. When the script comes out for any TV show, when you open it up, it'll tell you the cast list. And then, of course, there's all the names of the series regulars you know and recognize, and then they'll always list the guest cast. And when the script is in early stages, it'll list all the names, the character names of the guest cast. And then on the other side, where it would normally write the character name, it just says, you know, TBD. Mm-hmm. And so then you keep checking, you know, newer revisions of that script as actors get hired. And as they get hired, their names will begin appearing in that script. And so I remember seeing one of the scripts that finally started to have actors' names in it. And when I saw David's name, that's the first time I realized it. And I got very excited. But I didn't have any scenes with him. I didn't have any scenes with David, but I remember I was so excited that I was going to be there on the same day he was shooting. So, that's when I approached him and harassed him. And obviously David has been in a million movies and TV series, but I remembered him, of course, also from Cable Guy, which Judd Apatow had a large hand in. And, he's right at the very end of the movie. He's the guy in the helicopter, flying the injured Jim Carrey out of there.
Right.
But I mean, he's just one of those actors. He's been around forever. He's been in 5 million things.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that just never stops working.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm sure I wanted to bug him about other stuff, but it definitely, right off the bat, was UHF.
And have you had any other experiences working with, folks who have either been in UHF or, are close to the Al?
I don't, actually. Al and David may be the only two actors from UHF I've ever had any real interaction with. Never met Michael Richards. Never met Fran Drescher. Actually, I take it back. I've met Gedi Watanabe.
Oh, okay.
But that was brief and not enough time for me to talk to him about Wheel of Fish.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see UHF, you hear the first album. At what point do you turn just from a casual fan into, a real Weird Al fan?
It happened very quickly. I remember hearing Ricky and enjoying the hell out of it, and then we probably listened to a few other songs. Unfortunately, I don't want to make it up. I don't remember what else we listened to, but I know the first one was definitely Ricky.
Yeah.
And then I want to say we got a cassette tape of let's see, it must have been oh man, I really should have called my brother before appearing on this podcast to ask him to help me get this story straight. It might have been the Greatest Hits album. When did that come out? Surely one of you guys knows when Greatest Hits Volume 1 came out.
That came out in, I believe, 1988.
88. So that's what my gut is telling me, that we just got the Greatest Hits album, because I don't want to say because every song's amazing, because they're all amazing, but that's like everything I listened to was phenomenal. And Ricky has to be on Greatest Hits Volume 1.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and say Greatest Hits. We're calling it Volume 1 just because we know there have been multiple volumes, but I'm going to say that was the first one we got on cassette tape, and my brother and I listened to the hell out of it, and then and we probably followed it up not long after with Even Worse.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to say those are the first two.
That's so great.
Those are two great albums to start with, I'll tell you that. I mean, Greatest Hits obviously has all the greatest hits, and then Even Worse with Fat, the amazing Fat video. How can you go wrong with that? Do you remember your first time you got to see the Fat video? What was your reaction to seeing that?
Well, I saw the Fat video before I ever saw the Bad video.
Same here.
So I saw them out of order. So from that, and boy, isn't that true of so many of Al's songs? If you're like me and you are not plugged into current music, the list of songs that I heard Al's parody of first, or heard Al's, polka version of first before hearing the real song, that is an endless list.
That's exactly me, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, seriously, and I'll hear those songs come on the radio now, and I can't hear them the right way.
Right.
I only hear Al's version, with the dramatic beats. I don't know why that is, but I love that. I love it so much.
And the same for me with the polka medleys. I'll hear the original song and I'll be like, this doesn't sound right because it's not set to polka music.
Right? Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. Suffocation, no breathing. Don't give up if I cut my arm breathing. I cannot hear. Cut my arm breathing. I cannot hear the real song ever.
So Sam, I know on Twitter you have revealed that you've seen Al live a number of times. Do you know the first time you actually saw him?
That is correct.
In concert?
As a matter of fact, I do. The first time I saw Al in concert, I can tell you the date. And this is, I had to look it up because I wanted to get the exact date correct. It was on September 20th, 1996.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was on the Bad Hair Day tour at the Beacon Theater in New York.
Oh, okay. That's a great theater to see Weird Al in.
It was a terrific theater. I can tell you by memory it was a Friday night. Because you guys will love this story. So it was a Friday night that we saw Al there, and I remember specifically because my brother and I both came home from school, miserable week of school, and we're just sitting down watching TV. It's 3:30 in the afternoon, and we lived right outside of Manhattan in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And my mother says to my brother and I, "Hey, do you guys have any plans tonight?" And the only reason that she felt comfortable and confident in asking that question, knowing we were both about to say no, was we were gigantic losers. And there was not a chance that either of us at 14 and 16 had anything to do on a Friday night socially. Because we were both like, no. And she goes, "Oh, well, I mean, I just have 3 tickets to see Weird Al at the Beacon Theater in the city tonight. I don't know if you guys want to join me."
Oh, wow.
Greatest mom ever.
Greatest. Oh, wow.
Well, how fast did you say yes to that?
Oh, it was, I think we started crying, But I just love that she so knew she was not rolling the dice there. There was no way we had anything going on that night. This Friday night will be like every other Friday night these two boys have had for the last 14 years. They're losers. They are outcasts. No one makes plans with them. It'll be fine.
I think we should be fair, though, Sam. Yeah. If you did somehow have plans, I'm sure you would have canceled them to see Weird Al, right?
I might have. I don't know. Maybe if I didn't have tickets, all ready to see Perry Como that night, I might have had to go with my original plan. Just tell me if that's the first Perry Como reference you've ever had on the show.
That is indeed the first.
I think this is the first time I've ever heard the name Perry Como.
Okay. All right. That's what I strive for.
That's hilarious. So now you actually met Al at this first concert you went to?
I did. So I, we had not been to many concerts before that. So we weren't concert pros or anything. But the 3 of us drove into the city. We go and we see the concert. It's amazing. And then after the concert ends, we're all kind of funneling out. And then my brother and I noticed that a line of people is now starting to form alongside the wall of the Beacon Theater back where the side entrance, the artist entrance is. Mm-hmm. And, we asked someone what's going on. And then someone who was obviously a regular at Al's concert says, "Oh, Al usually says hello to the fans afterward." And that's all we needed to hear. So we turned to our mother, and she knows there's no way we're not going to wait in this line. She wants nothing to do with it. So luckily there was a cafe or something right across the street. And so she says, "All right, I'm going into that cafe. I am getting a seat by the window so I can keep an eye on the 2 of you. You wait in this line. You go nowhere else. And as soon as you are done, you come find me in that cafe." You got it, Mom. So my brother and I get in this line, and we're far from the front of the line, and we're standing there for what turns out to be like an hour and a half.
Wow.
It was a good long while.
Yeah.
And the reason it took so long was twofold. One, I mean, I know now, like, you get off stage, you are a disgusting, sweaty mess. So Al, has to cool off, take a shower, clean up post-concert. And then, he needs a minute. He's a human being.
Right.
So Al takes some time for himself. And then once he, finally came out, he doesn't give people the short shrift. Like, he says hello to everyone. He signs things. He takes his time to actually interact with all the fans. And, he's got it down to a science now with the different levels of badges and everything.
Right.
But back then, man, it was the 90s. It was chaos. And so, he's just sitting there like an absolute gentleman. They put like a card table, one of those foldable tables, like in the doorway of the artist entrance. So people are just coming up and, handing Al whatever they want him to sign, and he's shaking hands, and mercifully, this is 1996, so he didn't have to do selfies with everyone. Right. So, but he's spending, a solid minute or something on every fan, so that's going to take a lot of time. So finally, my brother and I are like 2 people away, and I realize we don't have anything for him to sign. And I guess we pulled out our ticket stubs. Yeah. And so Al goes to sign our ticket stubs, and then I couldn't help myself. And so I said, "Hey, Al, I'm so honored to meet you, and I have to tell you, I am a stand-up comedian here in New York, and my sense of humor is so directly inspired by your comedy and the film UHF. It had such a profound impact on me that it is one of the reasons I'm pursuing a career in comedy." And Al says, "Wait, did you say you're a professional comedian?" And I said, yeah, I do stand-up at clubs in New York. He goes, "Which ones?" And I said, like, Caroline's and Stand Up New York and Comic Strip and he goes, "That's amazing! Look, you're like a kid comedian. That's great. Good for you. What's your name?" And it's Samm Levine. "Oh, good luck, Sam. Good for you. Keep at it." And so that that was everything I needed to continue my pursuits, because I had been doing stand-up comedy at clubs in New York. I mean, I had an agent or manager at that point. I'd started when I was about 12, and and I was not selling him a line, like, straight up. UHF is one of the reasons I wanted to be, a professional comedian, and so that's why I started doing my jokey jokes, and so I have to jump around here. So now 3 years later, in April of 1999. I had just booked the pilot of Freaks and Geeks and flown out to Los Angeles to shoot the pilot. And the night we wrapped was like April 2nd or April 3rd or something. And after we wrapped shooting, a bunch of us said, "Hey, it's still early. Let's go out and celebrate. We wrapped the pilot. Let's go to Jerry's Bowling Alley in Studio City." And so a large group of us go to Jerry's Bowling Alley in Studio City, and that was a Friday night, I want to say, and the Drew Carey show also used to shoot on Fridays at the time, and I guess after they would shoot, most of the cast would go out bowling to celebrate. So we, the cast of, the unknown pilot of Freaks and Geeks, are out at Jerry's Bowling Alley, as is the cast of the Drew Carey show, and who was a guest star on that episode of the Drew Carey show.
Wow.
But one Weird Al Yankovic. So
Wow.
We are at Jerry's, and in the lane next to us is Drew and Ryan Stiles and Weird Al.
Wow.
And Mickey Dolenz, for that matter. So
Wow.
I see all of them, and I'm trying to contain myself. And finally, when Al is sort of away from the group, I walk over to him, and I go to say, "Hey, Al." Now, of course, Al has been stopped by many a teenage boy, in the wild, to say, "Oh my God, you're Elvis to me."
Yeah.
But God bless him, he's always the nicest in the world. And hey, what's up? And I said, Al, hey, this is crazy. We actually met once before. My name is Samm Levine, and I'm a comedian and an actor. And then Al goes, "Wait a minute, the Beacon Theater in New York?
Wow.
This is like 3 years later." And I was like, "Yeah?" And he goes, "The comedian." And I said, "Yes." And he says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, that's what I wanted to come over and tell you. I booked a pilot on this show, and I'm here in Los Angeles, and I'm shooting it, and things are obviously going okay, and I'm still doing comedy, and I wanted to say hello." And he was so nice and so complimentary and just couldn't have been sweeter about it. And then my mother, at this point, had a camera. And so, I harassed Al a few minutes later and said, "Oh, can I get a picture? I feel bad I didn't get one last time." "Sure." And so then that is the picture that I've posted online a couple times.
Okay.
Is meeting Al at Jerry's Deli in early 1999. Yeah, wow. And so that was I will forever be blown away by that. I mean, this is a guy who at that point, how many thousands of fan interactions is he having in a given year at that point?
Oh,
sure. Yeah,
countless.
absolutely.
Just
Countless.
an endless amount.
And every night at the tour, yeah.
Every night on the tour, even just when he's out hanging out, at the supermarket or whatever, people are always going to come up to him and say hello, and he's so nice and polite to all of them. And that has stayed with me my entire life. That I met the guy one time, but I guess, whatever I said to him was so different, I suppose, from the usual fan interactions he has that it stuck out. But I mean, I've met plenty of... Let me put it this way. I'm not going to name names, but there are other actors, other famous people who I have met for the first time 10 times, if you know what I mean.
Right. And you're already established at that point. You're not just some kid.
But no, I'm talking like famous people who I've had dinners with. Not one-on-one, but like as a group. I've sat next to them. I have, ridden in limos with them to events. I have worked with. I have done scenes with. I've spent multiple days in a row with. And a year or 2 or 3 will go by, and I go to say hello to them, and they will reintroduce themselves as if it is the first time we are meeting. So, just to give you an idea of how it usually goes.
Right.
Yeah.
That Al knew exactly where we met.
Wow.
That will forever stay with me, and it just cemented him as just genuinely one of the greatest, the greatest celebrities. Let's use the word. He is one of the greatest celebrities because I have to believe he could do that for a lot of people. That he would remember specific interactions he's had with many a fan over the years.
Sam, you've inspired me to tell a story of my own. So, maybe just under 10 years ago, I'm out in LA and backstage at a comedy show. I'm there with my friend Gabe, and it's for, we're backstage at Doug Benson's Doug Loves Movies. And I meet you backstage. We're just hanging out. I'm just there as a friend of Doug's, and we talk a little bit. But then like a week later, I'm at Festival Supreme, the first ever Festival Supreme, and I'm walking through the crowd, and I hear from behind me, "Thanks, Ethan." And I it's so crowded, I don't know what's going on, so I keep kind of trudging my way, pushing my way through the crowd. I'm like heading towards the lockers or something, and I just keep hearing 2 different voices, "Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, Ethan." And I finally get to the lockers, and I turn around, I'm like, who the hell knows me here? And it's you.
Yeah.
And I'm completely stunned because it's you. You've just been calling my name, thanking me. I don't know why you're thanking me. You're sitting next to Kevin Pollak, and I'm just like, I'm speechless. I'm like, what's going on? And I was like, how do you remember my name? Like, it was a week later. I would not have expected you to remember my name.
Well, you're very sweet, and if you'd like, I can fill in the rest of that story for you now, so you don't have to go wondering the rest of your life.
Sure.
Okay, so here's what's what. I definitely remembered meeting you. And Kevin and I and, our people that we were with, we had some stuff in the lockers, but you remember how unbelievably crowded that first Festival Supreme was.
It was insane.
Like, there's no way they anticipated that level of turnout, and man, everyone in LA showed up. And so, you couldn't move through that crowd. Like, Kevin and I were having a genuinely hard time trying to get our group back to the lockers. And then I saw you out of the corner of my eye, like you were just no holds barred, just bullying your way through the crowd because you had stuff to do and no one was going to stop Ethan. And I saw you doing that. And I was like, oh, I know that guy. I met him last week. That's Ethan. He clearly knows what's what. Let's get behind him like an ambulance cutting his way through traffic. And so me and Kevin just got right behind you. But I remember it was so crowded. Like, I feel like I almost had my hand on your back. Like I wanted to stay so close to you as you were just cutting your way through. And so me and Kevin, we just go, thank you, Ethan! Thank you, Ethan! And that was sort of, we were trying to let you know, like, don't stop! You're doing great! We're following you! This is terrific! Yeah. And you did. You got us right to the lockers. And we were so incredibly grateful.
What an amazing chance, meeting of all of that. And I remember, like, obviously I had just met you a week prior, but I'm just, like, kind of stunned that Kevin Pollak's also there. And I think you're just like, yeah, this is Kevin Pollak. And I was like, I know. It was just, it was so unbelievable, that whole experience.
When you're with your famous friends, you never want to stop being polite. I always introduce everyone.
Right. Oh man, that was so funny. So not only Al, but you also are one to remember names.
Well, you're very sweet. That was one of my better weeks. I've had plenty of bad ones. Make no mistake.
Well, I'm gonna see if you can jog your memory again. I'm gonna go back to the bowling alley. Do you remember what you bowled that day, and what, more importantly, Weird Al bowled that day? What the actual points were?
I definitely do not remember either of those things. I was as disinterested in the bowling as I could have been. I simply wanted to celebrate having wrapped the pilot and see all the famous people, including one Weird Al Yankovic.
That is totally understandable.
Yeah.
I was also really excited to meet Ryan Stiles because at that time I hadn't really watched much of the Drew Carey show, but I was a Whose Line Is It Anyway, the old British version.
Right.
Sure,
Huge fan of that.
That is so great. So obviously Freaks and Geeks got picked up. What was it like?
It did.
Was that your first, like, real acting job?
It definitely was my first real acting job, so to speak, yes. I'd done a couple of tiny things here and there, a couple commercials, and I'd been on an episode of One Life to Live, but in terms of, like, a meaty acting job, that was my first big one, for sure. And that was, that was great. It was the 90s. Things were good. It's what got me to move from northern New Jersey out to sunny Southern California.
Oh wow!
And shooting the show was amazing, and that's a gift that no one can ever take away. Is how special that show was to me and what it allowed me to do in my career afterward.
All right, so was the next time that you met Weird Al, was that on the Kevin Pollak show, or was there interactions before that?
Oh no. There were a couple of interactions before that. So the next time I saw Al is, in no particular order. It's so hard to rank all of the handfuls of times I met him in those years. But this would have been probably around 2001. I was doing, I think I was doing press for a movie or something, but I was going to go appear on E, the network,
Right.
the E network,
Sure,
entertainment
yeah.
network. And so they have offices on Wilshire Boulevard in L.A., and they share those. There's like studios there, and they share them with a couple other sister stations or whatever. So, but they all have a shared green room, kind of right off the lobby there. And so I was there with my publicist, just sitting in the green room waiting to go do something, and then Al walks into the green room because I guess he was there to do some other bit of promotion, and I see him. And obviously, anytime you see, Al in the wild, it's the best day ever. And so I see Al, and I get up to say hello, and I'm all ready to do the thing I always do, which is reintroduce myself, assuming everyone always forgets, no one knows who you are. And I get up to say, "Hey, Al, it's Samm Levine, good to see you." And before I can, Al goes, "Hey, Sam! Oh, man, I caught Freaks and Geeks. What a great show that is!"
Wow.
And so now I can't believe it. 5 years earlier, I'm telling this guy, you are my inspiration, and 5 years go by and he's telling me how much he's enjoyed, my work. And so to me that was I don't know that it will ever get any better than that in terms of, as I like to say, praise from Caesar. But that was a fun one. That was a fun one. And so we talked for just a few minutes before we had to go to our separate, studios to do whatever we were doing that day. And then, and then I ran into him at like an outdoor party a couple months after that, and we just talked for a few minutes. And then I would see Al here and there at premieres, at parties, and it was never oh, let me reintroduce myself. It became like, "Oh, hey, Al, hey, Sam, how's it going? Oh, good. What are you up to? Oh, I'm working on this thing. And how about you? You working on the new album?" "Yeah, no, I'm taking some off time. We're going to go tour soon." "Okay, great. Well, see you around." And that's sort of how it was for the next several years. And then I ran into Al they had a small, I don't know if it was a premiere or like a friends and family screening that Patton Oswalt did of the movie Big Fan.
Oh, cool.
That he's in. And he did it here in LA at the Silent Movie Theater. And Al was there. And this was right after we had just started doing the chat show with Kevin Pollak, the podcast. Okay. And so when I ran into Al there, I, of course, was not going to miss the opportunity to say, "Hey, Al, Kevin Pollak just started a podcast, and I'm helping put it together, and oh my God, you'd be an amazing guest. Is there any chance you'd come chat with Kevin Pollak and me for, a couple hours on a Sunday?" And ever the affable guy, he said, "Sure." And so that was it. We booked him on the show, and he showed up and was so generous with his time, and we were lucky enough to have him on twice.
Yeah.
We had him on a couple years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, Al is, you've heard him on podcasts, obviously. He's great. And, and he tells terrific stories, and he's always so generous in his answering of the same questions for the 5,000th time.
I mean, did you guys go out of the way to not ask the same questions?
A little bit. I mean, I have to give credit where it's due. Kevin and a gentleman by the name of Jason McIntyre, he was our head research guy, and so he would do all this research, and then he'd kind of cull it down, and then Kevin would go over everything and figure out specifically what topics he wanted to cover, and we definitely went out of our way on that show to not have it be another interview show that will be identical to every other interview this person's ever done. So, for sure that went into account in when figuring out what the topics would be.
Right. Yeah.
Now I saw a picture of you and Al. I think it was like a charity event called Big Slick. What was that about?
Yes. Okay, so Big Slick is a wonderful, wonderful charity. It is based out of Kansas City, and it is a charity that benefits Children's Mercy Hospital of Kansas City, which, in addition to being a wonderful hospital that treats people of all ages, one of their specialties is pediatric cancer. And they will treat pediatric cancer free of charge if you cannot afford it.
Wow.
They're one of only, I think, 2 or maybe 3 hospitals in the whole country that operate that way. And it's not just, we'll treat the kids. They also take care of the family. They make sure that the families are looked after when you're going through such a horrible, gut-wrenching, terrible thing. And they are the greatest people I've ever met. The people who work for Children's Mercy, the doctors, the nurses, the staff, all the people who work there are my favorite people in the world. And 10, 11 years ago now, that this charity, Big Slick Kansas City, was started by 5 guys, celebrities, if you will, all of whom are from Kansas City, and they are, in no particular order, Jason Sudeikis, Rob Riggle, Eric Stonestreet, David Koechner, and Paul Rudd.
Wow.
So this is their charity organization. The 5 of them, all of their families still live in Kansas City. So it is all of those families who help make this thing a reality every year. So what those 5 guys do is each of them gathers up about 10 of their Hollywood friends. And then for one weekend in the summer, all of us fly to Kansas City and we do this big charity weekend where we raise money for Children's Mercy Hospital.
Whoa.
And it's called the Big Slick Weekend.
How cool.
And I mean, we go all out on this thing. We do a celebrity softball game with the Royals, or at least at Kauffman Stadium where the Royals play. We used to do a poker tournament, now we do a bowling tournament. And then we have a big charity auction dinner/show thing, and there's ways for everyone of every level financially to get involved and take part in the weekend. There's stuff for people, if $20 is the best you can do, there's stuff for you to do where you can participate in the weekend. And then obviously we got the crazy big ticket items at like this auction.
Right.
A couple years ago, Paul Rudd auctioned off Captain America's shield signed by all the Avengers.
Whoa.
Which it went for quite a bit of money, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah. Wow.
And so all of that money goes directly to Children's Mercy Hospital. And the last several years, we've raised over $2 million, per weekend that we've gone and done this thing.
Holy crap.
And that is not because we're awesome, but because the people of Kansas City are some of the most generous, wonderful people, and they love Children's Mercy Hospital, so they are happy to open their checkbooks. But enough about all that. You want to know about Al. So a couple years ago, I want to say 2014, I'd already been doing it a couple years, and that was the first year Al got invited. And, he was a newbie. I was a seasoned pro at that point when it came to Big Slick. So I sort of helped Al navigate his way through the weekend, and okay, now we're going to get some downtime, so rest up, because everybody's going to go until 4 a.m. later. And that was the weekend that, this was one of those moments where, as I described it to my brother, I want you to imagine if before, Michelangelo was finished at the Sistine Chapel, like before he was done in there, like right before he was finished, he was like, hey, Joe, you want to come take a look at this ceiling? Let me know if you think it's okay. So here's what I mean by that.
Okay.
We're at the Big Slick Weekend, and it's 2014, and Mandatory Fun has not yet been released. It's a couple weeks away from dropping. And Al and I are, hanging out all weekend. We're talking about the new album and everything. He's telling me about the music videos and, how I think there's 8 music videos that accompany that album. And we're on our way back from an event. We're headed back to the hotel where we're all staying, and we had like 2 hours of downtime. And right as we're getting off the bus at the hotel, Al says, hey, do you want to see some of the videos for the new album? I was like, yeah, Al, I think I do. And so we go to Al's room, and he opens up, his laptop computer, and then I'm just sitting at this table in his room. He hits play, and he's just like standing behind me, kind of watching me watch it. And I watched the music videos for Tacky, Foil, and Word Crimes.
Wow.
Whoa.
And, I mean, it just keeps getting better and better. And I see the video for Word Crimes. It's the first time, of course, I'm also hearing all of those songs.
Right.
And when Word Crimes finished, I looked at him and I was like, Al, I know I'm a fan. And I know your whole body of work. This is next level, dude. Like, this is amazing. And he's, oh, you're very sweet. And then I wanted to know about the technical stuff, about the making of the video, and how Tacky it's all one shot, as you guys well know.
Yeah.
And, they did like 8 or 9 takes of it. And so we talked about the tech stuff, and then I was like, I want to ask to watch Word Crimes again, but I don't want to bore you. He's like, no, we can watch it again. And so we watched Word Crimes a second time. And I was like, all right. And so then here's my favorite part. He says, okay, but obviously the album hasn't come out yet, so you gotta, you can't talk about this. And I was like, oh no, I won't tell anyone. And then I went, wait, can I at least tell my brother? And he goes, can you keep it between us for now? And I was like, Al, for you, I will violate the bond, the sacred brotherly bond I have with my bro Max, and I kept to that. It was the worst secret I ever had to keep from my brother, was that he knew I was hanging out with Al that weekend, and I couldn't tell him that I had seen these videos and heard these songs, and how he was going to be blown away when he got to hear Word Crimes. But like the minute the album came out, I was like, okay, I can tell you now. And to his credit, my brother was like, look, if Al asks you to keep a secret, you keep the secret.
Right.
So he got it. He understood. He wasn't hurt. But that was my version of like, hey, Joe, I don't know, look at this ceiling. See if it's any good. Like he wasn't asking my opinion. Like if I had given him any, I don't think he was looking for notes, if you know what I mean. I think he was just being a nice guy and sharing what, with someone who he knew was a big fan. But just that I got to enjoy any of that, when it was still in the secret phase is a highlight for me.
Wow, that is incredible. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Amazing. Okay, we're going to have to stop the interview right there for this week. So make sure you tune in next week to episode 121 for the thrilling conclusion of our interview with Samm Levine.
Thank you so much to Samm Levine. I can't wait for everyone to hear the rest of his awesome interview.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also time to celebrate.
Wait, what are we celebrating? Last Saturday, August 14th, was the 30th annual Darwin Twine Ball celebration. We're certainly not still promoting that, right?
No, of course not. Don't be silly.
Oh, well, that's a relief. Well, what are we celebrating?
Why, the 31st annual Darwin Twine Ball celebration, of course.
Oh, boy.
It's never too early to start making plans.
Let me guess. It's going to be the second Saturday in August again?
Yes, sirree! The 31st annual Darwin Twine Ball celebration will be held on Saturday, August 13th, 2022 in downtown Darwin. So, Ethan, write it on your calendar and make sure to add it to your Palm Pilot so you do not miss it.
Oh, no. Well, unfortunately, I left my electronic organizer in the other room. Dave, can you page me later and remind me?
Will do, and I'll have our intern Frank send you a fax as well, just to be safe.
Oh, thank goodness. So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
Well, this week's episode is also brought to you in part by vegan burrito restaurant Burrito in Troy, New York, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla burrito, and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito and Burrito your burrito, or hop on over to Wizard Burger for mouth-watering, loaded, dare I say, beefy vegan burgers. From Troy to Albany to Uranus, Burrito and Wizard Burger feed the hungry with out-of-this-world plant-based real food, always vegan style. Visit burritosquared.com or wizardburger.com and order ahead.
Each week, we're able to bring you our podcast absolutely free thanks to our sponsors Burrito, Discover Darwin, Jackson Scoggins, David Grant at wolfandwool.com, and now TikTok, Joe and Yvonne and or Stashu from Waiting for Lunch Radio, and Angel Valenzuela and David Cash.
And thank you to our amazing close personal friend Patreon supporters Kenneth, Jared, Jake, Javier, UH Jeff, Zeb, Allison, Blair, and Frank from the Bank. And thanks to Richard B. and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our family-friendly weekly Weird Al podcast, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/2000inch. Or by picking up some pretty stinking majestic official Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast merchandise. We just launched our brand new line of Discover Darwin logo products. Head over there, grab them up. They are so pretty stinking cool. Check them all out at shop.2000inch.com.
And remember, this coming Friday, be on the lookout for the first 2 episodes of the Black and White and Weird All Over bonus episode series, our special book series where we sit down with author John Bermuda Schwartz and we go page by page, picture by picture, centimeter by centimeter through his book, Black and White and Weird All Over. And also, Patreon family, look out for bonus episode 6 centimeter to drop on Friday as well. And as a reminder, Patreon supporters get to hear all bonus episodes early.
We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans, so join our Facebook community and post about Weird Al by visiting group.2000inch.com. And we also love it when we receive voicemail via our 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347 Spatula. You might even hear your message in a future episode. The 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, is sponsored by the incredible Angel Valenzuela and David Cash, 2 amazing Weird Al fans and podcast supporters.
For everything about our podcast, including incredible past guests and episodes, be sure to visit WeirdAlPodcast.com or 2000inch.com. And keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thank you for subscribing and leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Spotify, Stitcher, or the podcast app of your choice.
Thank you once again to our guest, Samm Levine! And also, happy birthday to John Bermuda Schwartz! Thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible theme song, and thank you to Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thanks to all of you, our listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who makes our podcast possible.
Thank you for listening to Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. Tune in next week for the exciting conclusion of our interview with Samm Levine. And always remember to gill and chill.
Well, we did it, Dave. With this episode now complete, we officially closed out the first 10 feet of the podcast.
Wow, that is so amazing that we have put out exactly 120 episodes to date. That's more episodes than the Weird Al show.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's technically true. The Weird Al show only had 13 episodes, so, I mean, you probably could have used a better example, Dave.
Sorry, that's more episodes than Milo Murphy's Law.
Okay, getting better. Milo Murphy's Law has had 35 episodes, but, I mean, I wonder how we stack up against the classics, like The Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island.
We beat them, too. The Brady Bunch had 117 episodes, and Gilligan's Island had 98.
Wow! Okay, well, how about Breaking Bad?
62 episodes. We shattered them.
Dynasty?
Had a run of 64 episodes.
The Munsters?
70 episodes.
Mayberry RFD?
Impressive 78 episodes, but it's nowhere near the amount we've had.
The Sopranos?
86 episodes.
Welcome Back, Connor?
95 episodes.
The Partridge Family?
96 episodes.
Elf?
102 episodes.
Wow. Okay, so we have put out more episodes than all of those great TV shows. But what about the gold standard of television shows, The Muppet Show?
Actually, they have exactly 120 episodes. Same as us.
Aha! We're coming for you next week, Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, but they go phenomena.
Oh no. Well, we definitely haven't done that yet. All right, get ready, Dave.
Phenomena.
Doot 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 doot.
Phenomena.
Doot 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 doot.
Phenomena.
Doot 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 doot.
Phenomena.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 120-inch.
More episodes than Alf.
And obviously, anytime you see, Al in the wild, it's the best day ever.
Phenomena.
Just tell me if that's the first Perry Como reference you've ever had on the show.
Phenomena.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. Suffocation. No breathing. Don't give up.
Phenomena.
If I cut my arm breathing.